there is good news because it's the last episode of Meghan's podcast. I don't mean
there is a God.
I don't mean it. I'm not saying it's good news because it's the last episode. It's good news because we finally have some confessions after so many episodes of not a lot happening. We've heard a lot more from Meghan. We've heard a lot more talking about her life, about her children, about her plans. Does this episode where we actually get to hear things and get to hear confessions make up for what we had to force to sit through earlier in this series?
So my threshold for Meghan is a lot higher in terms of what I want to know. So in as much as what we've seen of Meghan so far, this is probably as much as salacious and as juicy as it's going to get. You know, she doesn't really know how to call herself. She's not sure if As Ever is going to restock and rebrand in the same way. All of that. That's fine. That's not what I want to know. I want to know, how did you bag a prince? What did you do? What were the techniques? Who's your waxing lady? I want to know the juicy stuff that should make her interesting, but she's so terrified to tell the public. I'm sorry. It was clear from the first episode that this is the way she sees herself and who she actually is are quite different. I don't look at Meghan as someone who I would get business advice from. Because I find her quite vacuous. And that's fine. Not everyone has to be a chemical engineer or a nuclear scientist or anything like that. Sometimes you can just be pretty and get to a certain stage in your life and embrace it and lean back into it. But she doesn't do that. She has these sort of word salad moments and she kind of drops these tidbits in there. And it's just... And she doesn't have the energy of a host, I don't think. She's very kind of drab and boring. And so what kind of sounded like a confession, I just thought, oh, give me the juicy bits.
I was always hopeful that when she leaned into, as I've said on the show a number of times, when she leaned into the lifestyle space, clearly she loves that. I thought maybe we're going to see a more relaxed, casual, real Meghan. I really hoped that would work. I thought that was going to be a good idea for her. I have been disappointed by the output because you're right. It's not about sitting here and bashing on her. We wanted, you want people to be happy and have success.
So here we are again, another Meghan Markle project, another round of hype. And yet, somehow, another disappointment. Her so-called lifestyle show was supposed to redefine elegance, culture, and class, but what we've ended up with is, well, drab air, no spark, no substance, and no soul. When Meghan first teased her lifestyle brand, fans expected a fresh take, something that would blend her Hollywood polish with royal refinement. Instead, what we got feels painfully forced. It's the kind of content that tries to look luxurious, but lacks any genuine warmth or originality. In short, it doesn't entertain, and it certainly doesn't inform. Every segment feels like it's been produced by a PR team obsessed with image, not connection. Glossy shots, soft lighting, and Meghan's perfectly rehearsed lines, all designed to look authentic, but you can see the script behind every smile. And when you try to dig deeper, you realize there's nothing there. It's style over substance, and even the style feels tired. What's striking is how disconnected Meghan's lifestyle message feels from real life. She talks about authenticity, simplicity, and joy, yet everything about the show screams overproduction. It's an attempt to sell relatability from behind the walls of a multi-million-dollar mansion. And audiences can sense it instantly, that lack of realness, that invisible barrier that stops us from believing a word she says. Here's the truth: if you want to build a lifestyle brand, you need to live the lifestyle you preach. Viewers connect with people who feel real, who share genuine experiences, not carefully curated perfection. And right now, Meghan's show feels like a performance, not a passion. Even the production feels stuck, unsure whether it wants to be a talk show, a self-help series, or a high-end commercial. It's not that Meghan doesn't have potential. She's articulate, ambitious, and undeniably influential. But influence means nothing without authenticity, and that's exactly what's missing here. Until she stops trying to control every frame and starts showing some real emotion, her projects will keep feeling like PR exercises rather than passion projects. At the end of the day, a lifestyle show should inspire, entertain, or educate. Meghan's manages to do none of the three. It's beautiful on the surface, but hollow underneath, and if this is the direction her brand is heading, she might want to rethink what kind of life her style is really selling.
Yeah. I think it's just not quite landed for a lot of people, particularly now the show's wrapped up.
Well, success-wise, we're going to get a third series, we think, of her cookery show.
Which is baffling.
Have invested so much in her as a kind of future product for them. And we've got Ted Sarandos, we believe, and I'm not sure if it's a direct quote, but they believe that Meghan is a superstar. And we've had previously people calling her a grifter. Which do you think is right?
So I think Netflix are at the point where they thought if back in 2020, which is when I think they offered them the deal, they just found a room and put a bunch of cash in it and set it on fire, that would have been a better use of their money. I don't think they've got any value for money with this couple, which is fine. I don't blame them. It was obviously a business risk taking them on, but I think a year or two...
Harry and Meghan the series.
Yeah, exactly. I think 2 years into it, they realised they'd sunk money into the world's most boring couple that needed like a lifetime supply of money to pay for their security. I think that's what it boiled down to. And Harry actually said that. He said, I was offered this and I needed to pay for my family's security.
But that's Harry. Meghan is who they're investing in. It's Meghan that
but there's nothing there. She's very, again, I'm not saying this to be horrible. She is not an entertainer or an entertaining person. There's not much personality there. I never learn anything from her. I love lifestyle shows. I watch them every day. I don't learn anything. I didn't learn anything from hers. And she's just not entertaining. She's not a fun person to be around. You don't think this is the person I want to go to the pub with to have a pint with, because it's just like, it's going to be vocal fry and like, oh my God, the newspaper. It's very clear that she is not box office in terms of entertainment quality. But that's okay.
I was going to say, look, if you're going to take a step back, right, it's no surprise that she is, I think, at her most unpopular point at the moment in England. So it's not a surprise still that, a lot of people here didn't take to her the product that she's been putting out. But it's not just that. When we're speaking of the possible third season, it's not just that. It's the fact that major Hollywood industry publications like The Hollywood Reporter and Variety, I mean, they were the ones writing the negative reviews about Meghan, where traditionally, you would think that they would probably be a little bit more favourable. And so that's what I'm saying. When you take that step back, it appears to be across the board. They weren't particularly well received. The show wasn't particularly well received, which is why I was surprised to hear about season 3. Again, not because, a lot of the people that, she's a very polarising figure, obviously, but the fact that it was so critically slammed made it very surprising that they would invest beyond season 2, which I believe had already been filmed.
Well, Netflix, they are keen on her. They are investigating. I think it goes deeper. Their relationship goes deeper than we kind of really imagine. As ever, with the brand, I think we're now told that they're not going to restock.
Yeah.
Oh, this is from the podcast.
Yes, that was a
topic on the podcast where
yeah.
she mentioned that, I might not restock this year.
She might go into a rebrand and I kind of veer into fashion, for example. As ever isn't just going to be.
This just plays as a whole thing. There's just, where's the direction? Where are they going? They're just throwing mud at a wall and hoping something
it's
sticks.
low risk. She's literally losing nothing. This is, when I tell you, this is the same strategy that every woman with a very wealthy husband who's just pumping enough into her business to keep her happy. This is exactly what's happening. When Sue was saying, they had an initial launch and they did really well because they sold out. Well, how many units did you actually sell? She could have sold 50 jars, and if it's sold out, it's sold out. And that's a success in her book. We don't know anything. We don't know the metrics of this business. And it's clearly in its infancy. It's still finding its feet and all of that. She doesn't really know what she's doing. Again, which is fine because you can hire people that do. But to go from selling jam and shortbread and all of that, which is reportedly sold out, to not restocking and then kind of having this haphazard view of what you're going to do next and potentially go into fashion, she doesn't know what she's doing. It's just a hobby. But that's fine because she's rich and hot.
You feel it's more of a hobby rather than an actual...
There's not a single person that looks to Meghan Markle as some sort of business or commercial genius. Or even competent. She doesn't need to be.
But again, because I personally, cynically don't think it will be proven, but it hasn't even been proven yet. She hasn't been able to build a business where she would be able to give that advice, which is why the podcast felt quite premature, I suppose, in that way as well. OK.
We did see a little bit this week on Instagram. This is one of I think maybe the second or third time we have seen partial part of her face. I mean, is this the way that... Is this an accident, do you think, for Meghan? Because we talked about the fact that they normally hide their faces in most of their pictures on social media. There's been a few that's come out. But is this an accident, or do you think is this something we might see more and more now?
I suspect there's a bit of tension going on with Harry and Meghan in terms of how much of their children to actually reveal. Yep. I think with Harry making such a public, his issue with security, I think not having their faces in the media is something that he's really trying to remain firm on. But I think Meghan sees the commercial value in having tidbits and like saying, actually, these kids are human and they're real. They're not pets that I keep, going on about. So I suspect there's a bit of tension there. I suspect maybe they say when their kids are 5 or 10, then we will unveil their faces. I don't know. But I do think they have different strategies. I really don't see what she thinks the public are going to get out of having pictures of like a miniature back, for example, like a small human, the back of a small human. I don't really see what is the commercial value there. If you're going to do that and you're going to lean into like kids' clothes, for example, just do it, But she's not doing that, and it's just, this is what happens when your view of yourself and your view of reality is completely adrift from everyone else's.
Now, one that I'm looking forward to, pictures-wise, to see the face, is these 4 new puppies, okay, that have arrived at Adelaide Cottage with William and Catherine. This is exclusive in The Sun this week, and we know that Orla, their black Cocker Spaniel, has had 4 puppies. We don't know the father yet.
I
so
love
we're still
that
waiting.
part. I love that part of
waiting.
the report because it sounds like there's going to be like a Maury Povich, Jerry Springer style reveal down the line.
Well,
we don't know who the father is, but we've got the envelope.
I'm hoping for this. I'm hoping for the first pictures. You know, I'm hoping for an unveiling at Buckingham Palace, a christening with all the family photos. But it's good news, isn't it? We get 4 new dogs. The dogs are very important to the royal family. They're very important to James Middleton, who is Catherine's brother, who breeds dogs. So we think maybe the dogs came from that direction, but the children, they must be absolutely delighted to get 4 new puppies.
It's so cute. It's so good for kids too to have that early stages of you know, we had puppies born when I was little, and you have to take care of them, and you suddenly have a little bit of responsibility, and it's really exciting. I don't know if will they keep 4?
Still waiting to find out.
So maybe don't get too attached, but it's very sweet in the initial stage. And as you said, you know, there was for such a long period last year, it was kind of all bad news from the Wales camp. And so you get these ones and it's cute. And it's nice to imagine the kids, after what has undoubtedly been a tough time, you know, having 4 little puppies running around. It would be very sweet.